So have you ever been scared to negotiate a job offer just in case you lose it altogether? Well, that fear keeps great professionals stuck in jobs that don't match their value, or they stay underpaid whilst their companies take advantage of them. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through a simple framework to ask for more in a way that keeps the conversation positive so that you can actually earn what you're worth. So let's start with step number one. It's understanding when you have leverage. Now, most candidates, they negotiate at the wrong time, either too early, before there's real interest, or at worst, too late, when they've already kind of said yes. And the result, they lose the one moment the company is most invested in them. So when you try to negotiate before they've made a decision, you look a little bit presumptuous. And when you try after you've kind of already accepted, well, you've already surrendered your leverage. So when you go negotiate when the timing is right, you actually negotiate from a position of strength, not fear. So you're not asking for more, you're clarifying mutual fit at the moment when they want you most. Now, I once worked with a senior engineer who tried to negotiate salary during the second round interview. It backfired terribly. They hadn't made a decision yet, so it looked like he cared more about the pay and the salary than actually the fit. We worked together, and the next time he actually waited. Once the offer came in, he paused, reviewed it, and came back with a counterclaim. I'm really excited about the offer, but based on the scope and the market benchmark, is there any flexibility to get the offer closer to X? And the result is they actually increased the offer by over 12%. So the formula is simple. Acknowledge the offer with gratitude, take the time to review everything carefully, and finally, number 3, return with data, not emotion. And that allows you the time to build your case. So to recap, timing is everything. Strike when your leverage is at highest, and you'll negotiate from strength, not from fear. Because if you negotiate too late, you look desperate. But when you strike in that window, you look strategic. So step number 2, focus on what you offer, not what you want. Now, most people justify their negotiation by talking about why they need more money. I've got a family, or the cost of living's gone up, or I've got other offers. Now, it's human, but it instantly weakens your position because it shifts the focus from what you're worth to what you need. And the company will start thinking emotionally, not commercially. And that's when the negotiation loses all momentum. But here's the shift. When you shift the conversation to value, everything changes. You come across as strategic, informed, and aligned to the impact. Because then you're no longer a cost to manage, you're actually an investment to secure. Now, a senior operations manager I coached was earning £110,000, and he got an offer at 120. His instinct was to say, that's great, but I was hoping for more. My costs have gone up this year. However, we flipped the framing, and he said something like this: I really appreciate the offer, but based on market benchmarks and for similar roles, and given the operational savings that I've just delivered in my last 2 positions, I was actually expecting something closer to 130,000. And the result? Well, they actually raised the offer to 128,000. Now, not because they felt sorry for him, but because they understood his value. So here's the formula. Anchor your ask around data and delivery. Use benchmarks from places like LinkedIn Salary Insights, Glassdoor, PayScale. Quantify your recent impact, the savings, the revenue, the productivity that you've increased, and speak in business outcomes, not in your personal needs. So for example, you say something like, given the scale of this role and my track record of improving efficiency by 15%, I was actually expecting something in the range of. So you have to remember this, your needs sound emotional, but your value sounds commercial. And you'll never lose a negotiation by proving your worth, only by pleading your need. Now, if this is already giving you new perspective on how to negotiate without scaring off an employer, hit the like button. It helps reach more professionals who need it. And tell me in the comments, what's been your biggest fear when negotiating in the past? Because in a minute, I'm going to show you the one line that protects your offer and gets you more money. So point number 3, start with gratitude and then reframe. Now, most people walk into a negotiation all tense, which is natural, of course, understandable. But in their mind, they've built up this fear. What if I blow it? And it really shows in their tone. They open the conversation with defensive or urgency. Thanks, but I was hoping for more. But that single line instantly shifts the energy from collaboration to kind of confrontation. And when the company senses that tension, they kind of go into protection mode themselves instead of that open partnership and collaboration. But here's how to sidestep that. When you lead with gratitude, you actually disarm the entire process. So a simple expression of appreciation, it signals your confidence, your maturity, and your emotional intelligence. And these are the exact traits that justify higher pay in the first place. You're framing yourself as someone who knows how to handle difficult conversations with composure. Now, a senior marketing manager I work with, she received an offer she liked, but not one that she loved. So instead of diving straight into negotiation, she actually opened up with this: I'm genuinely excited about the opportunity to work with you and the team. I think this role fits perfectly with what I've been building towards. I just wanted to explore if there's any flexibility around the base salary. Now, that simple tone changed everything. The hiring manager didn't feel pushed. They kind of felt safe to continue the conversation. And the end result is actually £7,000 more on the offer and an even stronger relationship before she'd started. So here's the simple formula. Appreciate first. Lead with excitement and gratitude. Something like, I'm really pleased to receive this offer. Then pivot into the negotiation gently. I'd love to explore if there's a flexibility around, and don't rush to follow up. Let your calm tone do the heavy lifting, because I assure you this combination makes you sound confident, makes you sound like a peer discussing options, not a desperate candidate pleading for approval. So remember this: gratitude builds trust, confidence earns concessions. And here's how you can negotiate without ever sounding confrontational. Now pause this video and write down your own negotiation opener using this formula. And how does it sound compared to your instinctive defensive approach? Now, point number 4 is an important one. Negotiate the whole package. Now, most professionals focus only on one number, the base salary. But that's just one piece of the pie. Sure, companies have fixed salary bands, but they often have flexibility elsewhere, maybe on bonuses, benefits, stock options, vacation, title, remote days, development budget, or even if you're in IT, the equipment and tools that you use. So when you lock your negotiation purely to base pay, you really leave maybe money, flexibility, and further opportunities on the table. When you look at the total package, you open up new paths for you to win. Even if the salary can't move, you can still build an offer that dramatically improves your quality of life or even your upside potential. Now, this approach shows you're strategic, reasonable, and long-term focused, and that's the exact kind of person leaders want to reward. So, for example, a senior project manager that I coached was offered $145,000 at the very top of the salary band. Now, HR said, we can't go any higher. So instead of pushing harder, he actually pivoted the conversation. He said something like this: now, I understand. Is there any room to explore a 6-month performance review or an increase to my annual bonus? And you know what? They actually agreed to a 10% bonus bump and a guaranteed review after 6 months. That raised his effective first-year compensation to over $160K without touching the salary. So here's how you reframe it in your mind. Think like a CFO, not an employee. So before you negotiate, list every component of the value that you consider. Is it base salary, performance bonus, equity or stock options? Is it paid time off? Is it more remote or hybrid flexibility? Personal, professional development budget? Maybe relocation support? Early review cycles? There's lots of things you can negotiate on. So pause this video and list out every part of your next job offer that matters to you. Now, which are your top 3? And how could you negotiate for an improvement in one of those? So to recap, don't just negotiate for a number, negotiate for a lifestyle and a growth platform, because that's how you really win in the long run. So point number 5 is use silence as a tool. Now, most people, funny enough, actually talk themselves out of better offers. They over-explain, over-justify, or rush to fill the silence when they're stating what they want. And in doing so, they signal uncertainty. Now, hiring managers read that as a weakness and quickly regain control of the conversation. Now, it's not because they're manipulative, it's just human nature. So in any negotiation, The person who speaks first after the ask often concedes the ground. So an important skill for you to learn is to sit comfortably in the silence, because you project calm authority and you make the other person process your request, not your nerves. And that pause is often the moment they start selling themselves on why they should meet your number. A client of mine, a VP of operations, made this very simple mistake early in his career. He'd say things like, I was hoping for something closer to 180K, but I understand budgets are tight and I'd still kind of be happy with about 170 if that was easier. Now, you won't believe it, but he literally negotiated against himself in real time. And when we worked together, he completely flipped that. He said something like, given the scope of responsibility, I was actually expecting something closer to 180K. And then silence. The hiring VP paused for a moment and replied, okay, let me see what we can do. And they finally came back in with 178K. Now here's how to do it again. It's simple, but make your ask and then just stop talking. If silence feels uncomfortable, count to 3 in your head or take a slow breath. Remember, confidence isn't about what you say, it's about what you don't need to say. And finally, point number 6, end on collaboration, don't leave it on pressure. Now, too many people finish strong and then ruin the tone at the end. They say things like, if you can't do it, then I'll have to pass, or I have other offers that I'm considering. Now, even if that is true, it sounds a bit like a threat. And that's when hiring managers switch off from wanting to close a deal to kind of protecting the company's position. Now, negotiation is a relationship test. If you finish with pressure, you signal scarcity and ego. And if you finish with partnership, you signal maturity and confidence. So when you frame the close as a collaboration, you make it easy for the company to say yes. So you can walk away not just with a better offer, but with a stronger relationship before you even start. So here's an example. One of my clients, a director of engineering, was actually negotiating a 160K offer. He wanted 175, but he didn't want to risk it. So he said this, I'm really excited about the role and the impact we can create together. If we can get closer to 170K, I'd be ready to sign and get started right away. Now that simple sentence did 2 things. It showed commitment and importantly, flexibility. And you know what? They came back at 172K. And he started the very next week on great terms. So to summarize, reaffirm your excitement and show that you're genuinely interested and invested. State your ask one last time, but remain clear and calm and signal partnership. If we can get closer to X, I'm ready to move forward. That way you're giving them a clear win-win and a confident close, not a confrontational one. Remember, your tone at the end is what they'll remember. End with partnership, and I promise you'll walk away with both a better offer and a stronger relationship. So getting the offer is only half the game. Negotiating it the right way is what turns a good job into a great one. So remember this, know when to negotiate, lead with value, not your need, start with gratitude, not with tension, and look at the whole package. Use silence as your ally, and always finish with collaboration, not pressure. And that way you don't lose offers by negotiating. You only lose it by negotiating badly. Learning the timing, the tone, and the strategy, and you'll always earn what your value is. So if this is helping, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's about to accept a new offer. It could literally change what they earn this year. And now you've mastered negotiating your worth. Your next step is earning your next promotion. So watch this video right here, how to get promoted in 2026. It's right here on the screen.